and welcome to today's webinar on 2017 CRM Predictions. Thank you for joining us. Just a couple of quick things before we begin. We will be recording this webinar, and to ensure clear recording, please keep your phones on mute. Feel free to type your questions into the Q&A field on the right, and I will pass them along at the end of the session. Now, I would like to introduce Matt Keenan, Senior Vice President of the CRM Product Group.
Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate everyone taking the time today. And as I get ready for today's conversation, first off, I want to say thank you. I know you all have full-time jobs. I know you all have demands on your time. I know you all have bosses that you work for that are looking for higher and greater productivity. And to carve out an hour of your time to join us here at Aptean to talk about what we're looking at as we kind of try to peer around the corner of the end of 2016 and on into 2017 is incredibly valuable to us, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to join us today. As Lauren mentioned, at the end of the session, I'd love the opportunity to take questions, thoughts via the chat that's available to you in the WebEx, and really try to tailor some of the conversation to things that are of interest to you. So with that, I think I'd like to go ahead and get started. And it's interesting. The prediction business is kind of inherently a tricky business. It's challenging to separate the signal from the noise, the wheat from the chaff, to try to get through kind of all of the things that are kind of happening in the CRM space, which is a really, really dynamic space. But it's also compounded by all of the adjacent technologies that swirl around CRM. And what we tried to do here is really kind of refine down to three very specific and, more importantly, very actionable things that you as CRM experts, as owners of your systems or leaders in your business can take and bring back to your company and really drive through practical implementation within the context of the next 12 months. Now, it's great to have theory, but my belief is that the ability to actually put that theory into practice and take a look at the impact that the theoretical point can have in your business is much more valuable. And so as we start to think about kind of what's out there and what organizations that I work with on a day-in, day-out basis around the world are thinking about and doing, one thing really kind of jumped to the mind. And it's funny because when I start to look at the world today, and I tried to come up with imagery associated with it, my first thought was, everybody's unique. And it's funny, one of the things I hear as I talk to C-level executives almost universally is when I ask the question, tell me about your business, they'll tell me about the industry they serve or the market they target, but it's always followed by, but we're a little different, right? We're the snowflake that is unique. Perhaps we're that unique DNA strand that creates that specificity that makes us special or different in the market. I also look at, fingerprints, right? What identifies us or personalizes us as individuals, as organizations, as teams within a broader context. And really led me to this thought, right, which is the ability to personalize your CRM application is the starting gate to thinking through what successful CRM looks like, right? What I really have come to the realization of over the course of the last 6 to 9 to 12 months is that we live in an increasingly multicultural, multi-generational, and global business. Right, the way that I work could be very, very different than the way that my peers work, whether they be in the UK, in Singapore, in South Africa, pick a place in the world. They could be very different based on the industries that an individual is working within. Right, the needs of financial services could be fundamentally different than the needs of engineer-to-order core manufacturing. And so the ability to actually tailor and personalize your CRM application beyond just what is delivered out of the box is absolutely critical in the coming year. And when I start to think about personalization, when I kind of try to drill down from this concept of personalization, it really to me comes down to 4 key bullets. Right? As an organization, we need to be able to take an out-of-the-box service and out-of-the-box software package and really define what matters to me as a company. Right? what are the things we absolutely must have? What is the data set, the process set, the security level that we've got to be able to do at a company-wide level to ensure that we are getting and focusing and capturing on the things that matter to us as a company? Second, then, is we cut that a layer deeper. We peel back the onion, and it comes down to the department. Right? It could be a division, it could be a group, pick the term that's appropriate, but that next cut below is really how do our departments work and how do we enable the specific needs of that department from the other departments in the organization while adhering to and respecting the organizational standards. That my inside sales team and my outside or field sales team work very, very differently. And I've got to be able to model and define and implement and reinforce the processes that enable effective, efficient execution and utilization of CRM based on the needs of the users. And my sales and service organizations have very, very different processes. Marketing is kind of a strange little beast in most organizations because of all the social stuff that's going on, is interesting and really enables organizations to do some amazing things, but we've got to respect the uniqueness. We've got to respect the needs of each department within the company to be able to model their specific processes, and then loosely couple those processes together to ensure we've got consistent data flow throughout the organization. Below department, then I think it's important to look at a team, right? And my financial services team could be very different than my retail team, could be very different than my marketing team, even though they all, kind of have the same title or the same kind of core role. The way they go to market, the way they look at and analyze and talk about information and turn that information into action and insight is really critical at the team level. Finally, I think to me, what's most interesting and certainly most challenging as a software company is how do we enable the user to personalize and define their specific CRM experience? And it's more than just, the front page dashboard, right? To me, that's ticket to the tent, that's table stakes, that's an ante, right? The ability to actually align how I move screen by screen or how I move section by section through an application is the ultimate goal from a personalization perspective, right? How do I, Matt Keenan, define my user experience while respecting the team, department, and organizational requirements and needs and processes is absolutely where we want to go and where we are going as an organization, because that's going to drive adoption. So with personalization as the backdrop, you're going to hear a theme from me throughout the course of today's conversation, today's discussion around how do we drive adoption, because ultimately CRM systems historically have failed to meet the expectations of organizations, right? And depending on the article you read, depending on the research that you look at, anywhere between 50 and 75, 50 and 65% of CRM programs are perceived to under-deliver. I don't want to call them failures, but they are perceived to under-deliver what the expectation was. And I believe that starts with, and first most important, is adoption. And personalization will absolutely drive adoption. So, second predictions, right? As we start to then kind of peel back and continue to drill in. If I were to go into your organizations and ask a common user, ask the average person within the organization to take a look at or describe using CRM, I've heard people tell me things like, it's like pushing a giant boulder uphill, or it's like solving the unsolvable process, right? Trying to get from point A to point Z through some mysterious or challenging process. I've also heard it been called a maze, right? How do we get to do what we need to do, and how do we focus on our job? And so each of those kind of personifications of people's perceptions of CRM really lead me to what I consider to be the second really important prediction for 2017, which is this organizational focus on simplicity. When I think about CRM and how CRM applications and solutions have become part of really the fundamental backbone of an information system technology base, right, an ecosystem that resides in almost every organization globally. Companies inherently look to add features, add capability, add data, add users. It is a fully accretive or additive process, right? Rarely do I run into an organization, and I could probably in this last year count on understand the number of organizations that I've talked to where they are rationalizing every ad against something that is no longer viable, no longer valid, no longer pertinent. And very few organizations actually approach the CRM application or solution as a net change, right? If we're going to add something, what can we subtract? If we're going to bring on new processes or new users or new parts of the organization, how can we simplify other aspects? You know, we Aptean internally have been using Pivotal for our entire existence, all 5-6 years that we've been in place. And one of the projects that we've undertaken is a rationalization of our Pivotal deployment on a global basis. We've got hundreds of thousands of users around the world touching Pivotal, excluding our partners and customers that are interacting with the application through our portals and other technologies. And what we found was that our business today is different than our business was 5 years ago. The needs of our customers are different. The needs of our partners are different. The way we go to market, the way we do what we do is different. We've also acquired 11 companies over the course of the last 2 years, and bringing those companies into the fold and bringing them onto our platforms and technologies with their products and their capabilities has stressed our Pivotal application to the point where we really had to stop and challenge ourselves to how do we drive simplification. And some of the questions that we asked ourselves from a simplification perspective, really, it might seem very obvious, but they were revolutionary because we challenged ourselves. From a data perspective, why do we collect the data? How do we use it once we've collected it? And most importantly, I think is, well, does the world end if we stop collecting the data, right? And there are absolutely some things where that answer is yes. It is absolutely a challenge to be able to look at with a really, really critical eye what you're asking your people to capture and how you're going to use it. And most organizations have a finance team, most organizations have a legal team, other organizations have a sales and service organization, marketing, what have you. But the question is there a minimum viable set of data that we need to use across the organization? And then look and challenge those things that need to be added above and beyond that minimum viable set of data. And so my question to you, or my challenge to you is, when was the last time you took a look at your CRM application, right? When was the last time you had the team with business users and technology users go page by page, screen by screen, field by field to ensure that the data is still important and we're not just collecting it because we always have, that we are still using the data and that it helps drive insight, it helps drive actionable decision, it helps advance a process on a step-by-step basis. And if you fall short of answering those questions in the affirmative, if we fall short of answering those questions positively, I think it's important to verify or validate the impact of removing that data. Because the more we can drive simplification, the more we can drive simplicity into our screens, the easier the application is to use. And the easier the application is to use, the greater the initial adoption will be. The reduction in training, because it's a simple, focused, tailored application and hopefully personalized application, the greater you'll have adoption, the greater you'll have value. And so it's important, I think, for us to challenge page by page, screen by screen, the data we're capturing. I'd also ask you or challenge you to look at processes. And this was one of the great learnings I think Aptean uncovered as we started to look at our implementation from a CRM perspective is, what are the processes that are critical to the ongoing operations of our business? And are the processes today the same as the processes were last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? Do we have the appropriate handshakes from a person and a data and a system perspective to effectively execute a process outside of an organizational silo and across the business as a whole? And we really challenged ourselves along the same lines as the data lines, which is, why are we executing this process? Is it still appropriate? How do we use it, right? How does it advance us from page to page, from step to step? And what happens truly if we stop running this process, right? Does it impact our customer experience and our customer journey? Does it impact our employees' ability to get their job done? Does it reduce the amount of insight we glean from the data that we're capturing within the application? Right? Does it change the way I look at as a senior leader in the business? Does it change the way I look at or execute the business and the strategies that we're trying to bring to the market? And quite honestly, there were several processes that we absolutely looked at and really said, I'm not sure what the heck we were thinking, but we don't need to do this anymore. And it really has driven a great degree of efficiency and effectiveness in our process, and really a simplification of what we expect our users to do, and a simplification of the training and onboarding and ramp up, in many cases retraining, that our users experience as they begin to interact with the application. The other thing that's important that the simplicity focus has done for us is it has allowed us to be much more agile. We are able to react faster and more quickly to changing market conditions. We're able to bring things to market much more quickly because we don't have to wait for a massive kind of bloated or over-engineered CRM application to be able to catch up with the pace we are moving in the market. And when you think about what we're doing from an organic growth perspective as a company, as well as the inorganic growth we've achieved through acquisition, the organizational agility is absolutely critical. And clarity of message, clarity of focus, clarity of intent is absolutely mandatory as we bring these organizations up. And so simplicity is, it seems like a basic thing, but from a functional perspective, from an efficiency and effectiveness perspective, it's absolutely critical to us in terms of driving our business forward. Now, and this is going to get a little bit theoretical, and I apologize in advance, but the other thing that simplicity does is it paves the way for what I see as 2018, 2019 technologies. Right? When we start to talk about machine learning and we start to talk about prescriptive and predictive analytics, the fundamental basis for any prescriptive or predictive analytical routine is having clean, clear, consistent, and unbiased data that the machine learning algorithms, that the models you're building from a predictive or prescriptive perspective can interpret. And while I don't want to do a full dissertation on predictive analysis, I think that's something that's probably a future webcast, probably sometime in the summer. It's important to understand at a high level. The way machine learning works is you take data and you pass it to a learning database, and you train the algorithm to predict based on historical data that you've collected. And if that data is muddy, if it's full of half-filled or incorrectly filled out fields, you can absolutely land on the wrong conclusions. You can absolutely land on the wrong predictions and the wrong models, or quite frankly, you can come up with predictions that just they don't mean anything, right? And there's this old adage, garbage in, garbage out. Predictive analytics and machine learning accelerates the process of garbage in, garbage out. And I would argue, I posit to you the fact that the more direct, the more simple our CRM application is, and the more complete and comprehensive and accurate the data we collect and pass through to our algorithms from a machine learning perspective and generate outbound predictions, the more valuable and more accurate those predictions will be. And so I challenge you guys as you think about simplification, as you start to think about how to refine and right-size what may be a very bloated CRM application because it's grown over time in that accretive manner, think about not necessarily what's coming today, but what you want to achieve in the future. Because simplicity really will enable some amazing insights to be gleaned from the data you capture as we start to embed the predictive and prescriptive analytics into the baseline of the application. So, I was thinking other people, I think, have framed this up, and this was a quote from Steve Jobs that really resonates with me, and it's one I challenge my product leaders, our product managers, our R&D organization to think about on a day in, day out basis. It is really, really hard to be very clean from a thinking perspective to make things simple. And then oftentimes simple is much harder than complex. If you think about an iPhone or an iPad, you think about the experience that Apple delivers from a device and software perspective, it is very clean and it is simple, right? There is no real user's guide for how to access the App Store, download an app, and begin to use your iPhone. They've done studies, and personally I find this incredibly fascinating, where they hand children an iPad, and there is an intuitive adoption of touch and tap and swipe and pinch and zoom that is enabled immediately upon touching the device for the very first time. And it's, for those of you who have young kids, hand them your iPad and watch them begin to interact with the technology, and you'll really understand the value proposition associated with Simple. Now, I want to be careful, and I don't want to insult anyone's user community out there, but I'm certainly not, drawing an analogy between a 3 or 4-year-old and your users, although some of you might be doing that in your heads right now. We need to make things as simple as necessary and not one step more. And that's actually a quote from Albert Einstein that to me resonates as well, right? We make things as simple as necessary, but not a further step. So, let's move on. Third prediction, and this is one that I'm incredibly excited about and incredibly interested in what the future kind of holds for us. We'll start to think about alternative or natural user experiences. And I go back to what we talked about at the open in terms of our multi-generational, multinational, global workforce, right? Different people from different backgrounds and different experiences coming together to interact with an application. Personalization, our first prediction, certainly will drive a value proposition. Simplicity and focus simply will drive adoption of a value proposition. Where I think we're going to have a kind of a disruptive innovation over the course of the next 12 months is this whole construct of natural user experiences. And I'll take the time to actually walk through what we're thinking about. When you think about CRM back when I started, right, 20 plus years ago, it was on a desktop PC. We were tethered to that desktop. We were on the monitor. We were in the application. We had the phone in one ear, and CRM was really desk-bound. And with the advent of miniaturization, the advent and explosion of the laptop, we started to get mobile. We started to get portable. But the mindset was to take all the data that was on that server and on that PC and slam it into the smaller footprint. Right, so we had to deal with replication and synchronization and kind of all the complexity from a technology perspective to support a remote, untethered workforce, oftentimes that weren't of a level of technical expertise necessary to stop themselves from getting into trouble. The evolution has continued over the course of the last 5, maybe 6 years with a massive push for mobility, right? Whether it be the smartphone device, whether it be the iPad, the construct of being untethered and truly being mobile is absolutely paramount. And you've seen an evolution of user experiences from really complex, 15, 20 year ago systems and multiple tabs and screens and really, sophisticated, rich desktop applications to very focused browser-based applications that drive a consistent, seamless experience, regardless if you're on your laptop, if you're on your iPad, or if you're on your smartphone. Right, and driving that consistent, seamless user experience across those devices is absolutely critical. Where I think we are at right now in terms of alternative or natural interaction, first is voice. Right, and I would argue that more than half of the folks on this phone right now, probably even 3/4 of the folks on this phone right now, have some sort of voice-enabled, voice-activated device at easy reach, whether it be Siri on your iPhone, Cortana on your Microsoft device, whether you've got an Alexa or OK Google device, heck, even if you've got an Xbox One, or here in the States, our local cable TV provider, Comcast, has now enabled voice activation and voice interaction. The construct of speaking to your application through a device, through a structured set of nouns and verbs, absolutely is the next wave of user experience. Right, we're going to continue to simplify, we're going to continue to mobilize, we're going to continue to enable consistent experiences across devices and across platforms. But to me, getting to a point where I have the ability to drive navigation, I've got the ability to drive data update, I've got the ability to drive, search and retrieval or navigation through voice commands is absolutely going to be part of, I think, the most rapid, most disruptive evolution in user experience, bar none, over the last 10 to 12 years. The ability to ask Alexa or ask Google or ask Siri or ask Cortana to give you your next appointment, to give you the order history for the last 5 orders for any given customer as you're walking in, to talk about your pipeline and be able to interact with data through voice is absolutely going to be part of what a modern CRM application delivers. very, very quickly. The other thing I would throw out for your consideration is the construct of alternative prompt-based interactions through chat or chatbot tools. Right? Generally speaking, if you did a search for automated conversational entity, right, ACE, you're going to run into the definition of a chatbot. And really what it is an unstructured query based on keywords that interacts with an application. So similar to voice, being able to use a chat application to be able to drive an interaction, whether it be search and retrieval, whether it be execution of a structured workflow or script, whether it be links to deeper navigational pages within the application, changing the front end of a CRM application to be chat specific, to me, is absolutely going to happen over the course of the next 6 to 8 to 9 months, right? And I think about a tool like Skype, right? And I don't mean to be a Microsoft shill, but I think Skype has done a nice job, Microsoft has done a nice job with Skype in creating a pretty ubiquitous, pretty straightforward, pretty simple, pretty approachable, addressable, adoptable user experience, right? I point to a person, I start to talk with them via my keyboard. I've got the ability to promote that to a phone call. The construct and concept of chat-based interactions as the primary vehicle for interacting with CRM is an area that we, Aptean, are incredibly excited about and are investing in actively to ensure that we get to the point of a zero learning curve environment, right? We get to the point of that frictionless experience where a person is immediately productive with the enterprise application without having to sit through hours of training, without having to work with their peers or IT support staff to be able to get to the data. The fact that I can type a message via chat or speak a message via a voice capture to be able to begin the process of interacting with CRM absolutely will revolutionize how people interact with CRM. And I'm incredibly excited about this evolution because when you start to look at Alexa or OK Google or Cortana or Siri or pick your voice-based tool, you start to look at the simplified, streamlined experiences of chat-based applications, whether it be SMS text, whether it be Skype, whether it be Facebook Messenger. It makes sense, right? I don't have to think about a click. I don't have to think about a screen flow. I can converse naturally across multiple media with my enterprise application and get to the data I need, update the data I need to update, and navigate to the place I need to go. And so I'm incredibly excited about kind of voice and chat. And I touched on, I think, kind of the primary use cases. Right? The ability not just to instantiate or open a search using voice or using chat, but the ability to actually capture and update a record based on either direct interaction with the voice or chat tool, or through structured execution of a workflow where we actually walk a user step by step through the process of creating a new record, updating an existing record, documenting the notes coming out of a meeting. It's really incredibly straightforward, and I think the power of these alternative or natural user experiences really is obvious. The other thing to me that's interesting is navigation, right? And I hesitate to put navigation out on my list, but by and large, my experience over my time in CRM has been that senior executives tend to not want to go into the depths or the guts of a CRM application, right? They want a dashboard, they want a report. In some cases, they want to, dump to Excel and have graphs printed out from Excel, maybe even sent to them in email. And so when I start to think about how we drive maximum adoption of CRM and maximum value of CRM applications in the context of an organization, certainly user adoption is critical, right? And the support of frontline management to drive user adoption, absolutely critical. Where we tip the bucket in terms of enterprise-wide adoption of CRM is when the executive team, senior leaders, senior managers on a global basis begin to use, live, and rely on the data that's captured in the application. And to me, chat and voice-based navigation will streamline that adoption. It will simplify the senior leadership team in terms of interacting with a complex CRM application, right? The fact that I, as a senior leader, can, over voice, ask for my pipeline, top 10 most important deals, top 10 most at-risk customers, without having to know screen flow, without having to know click flow, just do it in a very natural manner. To me, will revolutionize the way CRM applications are perceived within the corner offices in all of your buildings. And so I'd encourage you to start to think about those use cases. So when Aptean and our tool sets are voice-enabled and chat-enabled, which will be very, very soon, you'll be ready to adopt, embrace, and deploy these alternative natural interaction vehicles for your application. So really, really excited area, an area that I'm incredibly bullish about because I think it's really going to be transformative, much more even so than say, mobility. So I think value proposition of natural interaction or natural language interaction, certainly reduction in training costs, right? And that's hard ROI. The fact that I don't have to fly people in or fly a training staff out, the fact that I don't have to staff up an IT function to support the users, the fact that I don't have to create shadow support amongst users is going to drive real significant reduction in total cost of ownership of your CRM application. I think natural interaction drives user adoption both at the user level and at the executive level. And one thing we didn't really talk about was this whole concept of data time lag. Oftentimes, CRM users, and I'm not pointing to anyone specifically, but oftentimes CRM users will wait until they get to a place where they're at a coffee shop, they're back at the home office, they're in a field office, to be able to create or update or manage the results of their day's activities, their meetings, their appointments, their emails, their interactions that they've had with customers and partners. The challenge that we face with that time lag is the world could have radically changed between the point of interaction and the point of data entry. And through voice or natural interaction methodologies, we actually have the ability to reduce that data time lag, that data capture time lag, where we as a business can get real-time information as the meeting or appointment or customer interaction is done, and use that to improve our customer responsiveness, use that to improve the analytics and the insight with regards to risks or opportunities that exist in our respective markets or businesses. The faster and more accurate the data is, the more valuable that data is, because I can act on it quicker. And I can improve my customer responsiveness, I can improve my customer satisfaction, because I don't have to wait to the end of the day to get that promotional presentation or that pricing quote or that response from a field service technician. Right? The fact that I can interact in real time without necessarily having to plug in my laptop and open up my page and log into the application and navigate to the customer record, and the fact that I can do that via voice or do that via chat is going to improve customer satisfaction through increased customer responsiveness. So when I start to think about the value proposition in terms of reducing total cost of ownership and improving ROI for CRM, I think the whole construct of natural interaction is going to really drive real significant quantifiable value for you in your CRM programs. So let me summarize, because I know I went quickly. I blame the caffeine, but there are really three predictions that to me will be transformative in 2017. First is personalization. Right? How do I enable each user, each team, each department, each organization to tailor the experience to meet their specific needs, right? To adopt and embrace the diversity that exists in our workforce, whether it be process, whether it be cultural, whether it be geographic, whether it be age. We've got to embrace that diversity. We've got to enable effective, efficient utilization of CRM through embracing personalization and driving personalization into our applications. Second is a real focus on simplicity, right? And we talked about challenging data, challenging process, challenging complexity in our CRM applications. We've got to break the accretive additive mold that most organizations have when they look to modify or change or improve or enhance or add to their CRM application. We really have to look for a balanced approach to, if we add something, is there something we can reduce? Right? If we build a new screen, is there a screen we can take out? If we enable a new process, is there a process we can retire? We want to remain efficient, we want to remain effective, and we want to reduce our total cost of ownership. And focusing on simplicity absolutely does that. But more so than just efficiency and effectiveness in the application, simplicity does pave that way for advanced analytics and some of the really kind of higher end technologies like machine learning that are out in the future. We can't pass garbage into a machine learning algorithm because we will get garbage back. And so it's critical to focus on simplicity, focus on that mandatory set of data that we need to understand our business and drive our business forward in order to enable predictive and prescriptive analytics. Last piece is that whole discussion that we just had with regards to natural user experiences. Changing the way people interact with applications, driving language-based or chat-based interactions so I can reduce total training costs. I can enable people to get up to speed and get productive and get proficient and get expert in the CRM application without having to go through a really complex, really formal, structured process. It is incredibly valuable. It allows an organization to focus on what they want the person, the individual employee to do, because the barrier that exists between process and role definition and utilizing CRM disappears. And quite honestly, I run into very, very few organizations that pay people to use CRM. Right? CRM is meant to be an enabling asset, an enabling tool to allow people to do what we pay them to do better. And natural user experiences allows that to occur. When we think about the use cases, we think about the value propositions that these natural experiences bring to the table. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting to watch this disruptive, transformative evolution and really focus on CRM as a platform, independent of the way people interact with that platform. Right? Focus on CRM as an information and process asset rather than focusing on CRM from a user experience perspective. Because to me, the user experience should be immaterial. Right? Ultimately, that's what we've got to drive to is you can deploy whatever user experience works for your organization. Whether you're in a contact center and you need structured screen-by-screen workflow, or you're in the field and you need the ability to query via voice, CRM applications from a platform perspective need to be robust. CRM applications from a user experience perspective need to be incredibly agile and incredibly flexible to adopt the changing dynamic needs of your user base. So that's kind of it in summary from a 2017 predictions. And like I said, predictions are a tricky business. These are the things that really jump out to me as I read research, as I look at what customers and users are demanding and asking of not just CRM but enterprise applications. And also as you look at some of the excitement and interest and investments that are going on broadly within the technology market. There's a ton of interest in personalization technology. There's a ton of interest in predictive analytics and machine learning and AI. And certainly there's a bow wave of excitement around driving voice-based or natural interactions. And we see those stepping to the front over the course of 2017. So with that, that's the end of the formal presentation. I did want to leave some time to first off say thank you again. I do appreciate you carving 40 minutes, 45 minutes out of your day to listen to what the future holds for CRM in 2017. Hopefully I've sparked some interest. Hopefully I've sparked an idea in your head that you can take back to your organization, kind of challenge and look at how and what you are doing within your organization with your CRM tool set. And so what I would like to do is actually open up the chat window for questions. And I actually see some of them flowing in right now. So Joshua, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it. His question is, will some of these predictions be available for all the CRM systems that Aptean offers? And the answer is absolutely yes. One of the value propositions of Aptean is the ability to actually do centralized R&D around some of these capabilities like natural language interaction, like personalization, and make it broadly available to all of our applications, not just CRM, but our ERP and supply chain applications as well. When you start to think about common technologies being deployed across the wide portfolio of products that Aptean brings to market, the answer is absolutely yes. What it allows us to do is make a single focused investment on enabling and scaling a platform, and then allow the products themselves to pick up that investment and accelerate their time to market. So specifically to CoreTrack, absolutely. Right? Whether it be Onyx, whether it be CoreTrack, whether it be Pivotal, whether it be Saratoga, we've got some amazing technologies that are in the pipeline right now that will be broadly available to all of the platforms. Another question that came in with, and Michael, appreciate you chiming in, any specific predictions regarding call centers? So the call center space, to me, is a very challenging space. Anytime you face a high degree of turnover, which most call centers do, whether they be domestic or offshore call centers, the need to be able to bring in and plug in new resources and have them be proficient, if not expert, in a much shorter window is absolutely critical. And when I start to look at some of the things we covered off today with regards to personalization, natural language interaction, certainly I think the contact center space will benefit from some of these investments. Other areas I think where contact centers are really going to get some significant benefit is in the AI, machine learning, predictive analytics space. Right, the ability to take a look historically at volumes over time from a call volume perspective or from a skill perspective, from a language perspective, and predict what future spikes are coming and be able to staff up and train up the appropriate level of resources to be able to address those perceived spikes or future spikes is going to be critical to ensure you deliver a world-class differentiated customer experience. Right? And so to me, it's important that these investments kind of all dovetail together really, really nicely. Because as we drive simplicity, as we pave the way for predictive analytics and start to get much smarter about the data we collect and how we use that data, I think we're going to be able to drive real optimization within our contact center, real efficiency in interaction. I don't want to say just call handling, right? Because when I start to look at social interactions and sentiment analysis, when I start to look at text or email or chat-based interactions, beyond just the traditional phone-based interaction, the ability to effectively and efficiently route to a person who is equipped and ready to deal with the inbound interaction is critical. I think a combination of simplicity, combination of alternative user experiences, and paving the way for predictive analytics to ensure we've got the right people trained up is absolutely going to be critical in the CRM space. But appreciate the question. I'll wait a couple more minutes to see if anybody else has anything to chime in. Well, Lauren, it seems like the question flow has started to dry up, so I think I'd like to turn the meeting back over to you for a wrap-up.
Okay, thank you, Matt. This concludes our presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for attending and have a great day.